Greetings, my friends, and welcome to Translucent Caning Made Easy. You know, translucent material is an endlessly interesting thing. The fact that it shows light through it, that it can be tinted and still show light through it, that it can form negative spaces that really now become the focal of your design, that is just interesting to me. You see that I'm using different configurations of cane. It doesn't all have to be translucent. You just have to remember that it's creating a line that will later, show contrast, definition to the shapes that you've put on your object. I've made quite a few pieces. I've been fascinated with translucence really since the very beginning, but it's kind of an acquired skill because it's easy to darken it too much. It's kind of easy to have too much translucent and not enough line, and the other way around. So we're just going to do something so simple today that it really defines what translucent caning is for you. And you can spring from that and really understand the design that you want to make and that you see in your own mind. I have dozens more pieces. I just didn't want to burden you with them, but these are the things I'm making at Indie Jam in October, my event, and that I'm also making in Boston in 2018. So if you want to learn that, get in touch with me. In the meantime, let's begin. I've got a 2-ounce bar of Sculpey Primo Translucent that I have made into a nice clean cylinder. And I'm going to wrap it in some Primo White and a really thin setting. Now these decisions start right now because do you want some thicker white lines? Is the white just to divide the colors that you're using from the rest of the translucent? These are questions that will occur to you as you work with translucent more and more. Mine are going to be really subtle because I don't want my design to be so much about the white. I just want to make sure that I have divided it from that white gold glitter. That's a thicker sheet and that's on a number 4. All the thicknesses are how you decide how much there's going to be that is translucent and how much there's going to be that is not. So these concepts kind of become clearer as you go. You'll really see in this one how big a difference it makes, even if you just pinch a little bit of the gold together to create a motif. That really shows through that translucent, and that's the fun of it. So I'm going to take my little rod here, and I'm going to make an indentation, and all I need it to be is nice and even, and that's why I design these at 6 inch. You can put a bit of pressure on them without breaking them. So 6 inches is a good size. It's about the largest of any cane I made, and you see this one's about a 3-inch cane right now. So I decide right away, am I going to pinch that shut to form a little pointed thing, or am I going to add something? In this case, I want to add something. So I've got some these logs made, and believe me, it really pays off to make them in advance. And in my classes I always emphasize that. We spend our first couple hours preparing sheets and logs, blends, because once you have all those items laying around, it's just so much more fun to build cane than if I had to stop, create a sheet, roll it up, even it out, make sure it fits. Okay, I've made these pieces beforehand. I've done them in the sizes of my CaneBenders, my rods. And that way when I make an indentation, I've got a really good idea how that's going to fit. So you see I cut that one in half. I'm not wanting it to bulge out or create any other drama there on the outside, but you could do it that way if you wanted to. You could leave it round. And you could wrap it, do something to it to accent it. So we've cut that one in half though, and all it's created is an indentation that's filled. And here's an indentation that's smaller. And that's the 1/4-inch cane bender, and I've made some stuff to go with it. So you see we're warping just a simple thing. We're warping, a bullseye cane. I'm pinching that back together because I want to start creating some little accent points that you'll see at the end of the cane. So that little pointy thing there, that's going to be key in our design. You'll see that. So now I've still got a big gob of translucent. I just want to break it up some more. There's a million ways to do it. I could make a slice in the top and drop in a straight line. But I have too much fun, squeezing elliptical shapes into them. It's just something that appeals to me. If you like a lot of angles in your canes, which really do look cool, you can use the CaneBenders. And they are squares, can be nice and strong like this, and they will create angular indentations. So you can look into that. In the meantime, I'm just going to continue with making these soft channels, and those will really serve us in our design. So you want to get it in there evenly, because later when you cut it, it's going to need to match up. And so if one end is a lot more shallow where you pressed in your rod, then it's not going to be the same shape as the other side. So just be aware of that. It's pretty easy. It's not, you can feel it almost more than you can see it really. And take it back out. Be careful, you don't want to rip up your clay there. The temperature is good in this room, but sometimes it's too hot. So just be careful taking your rod out. Now I've opened that channel up a little bit more, created a little bit larger lip on the edge of it, because I want to kind of play around with this part of it. So now I've got fill on two sides, I got a pinch on one side, and that little ridge across the top there, I'm going to kind of pinch it and flop it over a little bit, like this. So I pinch it, thin it out, and then just bend it over that edge toward the translucent piece. And you'll see how it made that little kind of shadowy thing. That's a little vague right now, but you'll see in a minute. So how do I like it? Is it okay? Yeah, I like that shape. It's kind of, ooh, I don't know. It kind of looks, I guess it looks like something I haven't seen before, which is kind of the point. Now see at the top there how it's shadowy? That's just from flopping that gold line over the top. I just made like a hint of a little mystery there. And of course, talking about caning is always a lot different than really caning, but you'll see what I mean when your little hands are on that clay. And now I'm going to decide where I'm going to flatten it, which is right there. So when you take two pieces of this shape and you flatten it like this, okay, now you've just about got your square going, because you've got a really wide triangle. And that's the point of this one. It's not going to be a hexagon. It's going to be more of a square. So I've taken it back out to 4 inches, and I've kind of sharpened up the corners as I've done that reduction. That's not too hard to do. You kind of automatically squeeze all the edges, don't you, when you're reducing it. I'm going to cut it and see how we're doing here. And you can see that already it's becoming the design that you recognize from the thumbnail. Okay? I'm going to take this one back out again to 4 inches. I'm also going to flatten it like I did last time, because that diamond shape doesn't fit together. So when you make one big flat edge, it really lends itself to making a square. And as you know, squares are really easy to apply to objects. Candle holders, beautiful with these. They have those little lights now you can get that are battery powered. So there's just so many things you can make with all the lights that are available, and they've become pretty reasonably priced over time. So, the lines on my work surface are there for this reason right here. I know right away if I'm getting a narrow end. I know right away if I'm really getting off the track there. Okay? That was Spike's hand. I don't have any idea what he's doing, but we'll continue. So now that I've got this, and Spike has gone away, we'll get ready to cut it. That looks pretty good. That's close enough. I'm going to take it back out to the 4 inches now. I'm looking up and staring at Spike because I'm not sure, it's not really like him to put his hands in front of the camera. But I can't reduce this again, can I? Okay, I threw him out. So here we go. Now we've got this. We can put it together that way. We can put it together all those different ways that you know about. But I kind of like those little starburst on the edges, and it'll look good when it's recut. When it's put back together, we'll have those little star things all over the place. And now we're going to make it go into a square shape. And the way you do it is you rock and you roll. You just go forward a little bit, and then you go backward a little bit, and in a very short time, you'll have a nice square. As usual, I've cut a little bit of this cane and put it aside. I always retain a little bit to play with, to do variations with. You might want to do that too. And as we push and pull, those, that diamond shape, when it's broad like that, turns into a square. And then we have that. We can put this together, and you see our little starbursts. They just add a lot to the design, and really they were just created by, just by pinching up an edge that you didn't fill. We'll take a little slice, see how we like it. When I slice my cane, and I want it really thin like this, I just set my blade, and I lean it kind of toward the back so I don't shave through there. And I still shave through there sometimes, but you can still use those pieces in this kind of a project. But you're just doing your best to get really, really thin slices. See, that was a little thin on the edge. That's okay. We really only need two on this part. I'm going to put them together and make a little sheet to put over my patterned cane that I have laying around. Now, with regard to your cane, if you don't have any cane laying around that you want to use to put your translucent over, just make a nice blend. Wouldn't that be pretty? And see, you don't need them to be very big, so you could make yourself a whole bunch of really nice blends to put your translucent cane over. And don't forget, before this video, I did a bunch with silver. It's the white gold glitter instead of the yellow gold glitter by Primo Accents. Well, the white gold glitter looks really pretty on, real icy looking on one of the blues, and it'd be really pretty on anything. It's got a whole different character than the antique gold. I just work with antique gold a lot because I collect antique gold findings, see? And so, when you have a lot of one thing to work with, it certainly makes jewelry design a lot easier. You can find what you need. And, I really suggest that you might want to do that. I used to stock, copper, gunmetal, black, gold and silver, of course, then antique silver. Then I'm like, oh, well, antique gold. Pretty soon you've got a little bit of findings and accents of a whole bunch of different colors, but you don't have a lot of any one thing. So now I just stick mostly with one color, and I'm using up my old ones. There's some other cane. Shows you the difference between cane that you could really use for these kind of projects. I did a bunch with that stripe. Some I love, some I like, some I don't like, but in these quantities you can do a lot of experimentation. Anyhow, this cane has been a blast. It's just, I built it at Metropolitan Detroit Polymer Clay Guild Retreat, and I kept building cane there to show people. And so I ended up with all kinds of interesting things to bring home, for scrap or for spare. So I've got my translucent sheet, and I'm putting it over there. And right now, it's okay. It's a little underwhelming. But I've placed it where I want my accent colors to pop through. You can do it completely randomly. You can do it on an angle, a diagonal. It always looks really pretty. This one I just chose to kind of center up. So I've got it on this backing. It's just a scrap backing because I'm going to have something behind it. You want the sparkly yellow gold glitter to kind of accent the glitter in the cane. So if you want to, you can texturize it, which is really neat. This is Christy Friesen texture sheet. And I've used it a lot of times because it's just always interesting to me. All of her stuff really is. But I've used this one a lot of times. You'll see that it's, trimmed around the edges. The rubber is. And that's because I don't like the margins to get in the way when I'm making something continuous. So I just cut around them as close as I can, and that way when I've got to butt the designs up against each other like on a long strip, then I don't have to try to line it up with the margins of the rubber trim around the edges. That's just something I do. So here's my plastic baggie. I have a lot of plastic, around, because with Tiny Pandora, we have all those little bags we put everything in. But you could use just regular baggies from the kitchen. And I'm going to cut through with this oval cutter. This is a Sculpey cutter. I prefer metal cutters. I know there's a lot of a really nice, 3D printed ones and stuff like that. I guess I'm just old school. I like the clean cut I get from this, but everybody should get what they want to get. So that's really cool. And you see the underwhelming nature of the way that the color comes through? That's because we need clear coat on top and we need to heat it up. So the baking process and the finishing process both really, sell this piece, really make it worthwhile. So there's my pretty pattern back. And I'm going to use it to make placement of my findings super easy. Now you can embed them afterwards. You can do just all kinds of things. So I'm going to do them kind of like I did this one. I like that arc that it creates at the top with the chain. And so I put a couple of, pendant bails in the top because they're just kind of nicer than just a wire. But you can use jump rings. You can use all kinds of things. So, till you decide what you want to get, be sure you just use what you have on hand. You can use other pendants that are flat and kind of embed them in between there, and if they have a nice top on them, it looks really pretty. So you'll decide what you want to do. You can put those in there. I'm not going to pinch it too hard. I don't really want to mash it down, but I want it to be definitely seated where I want it. And again, I'm going to use my grid to kind of line things up. But it doesn't have to be perfect. All these things are really pretty, and I've never had anybody, pick up a piece that I made and say, gee, I see that, that your placement of your cane is off center. That's just not the way, I don't know, not the way people look at art, I hope. So I'm going to take these little eye screws and I'm going to place one in the center and one on each side. Just leave enough clearance for what you're thinking of hanging on here. If you have something fairly large, then you can make them spaced a little bit wider. I'm just going to be using a little filigree heart and a couple of filigree connectors that I just always have liked working with. I've got these in there like that. Now I've got to do is bake her up. So there it is baked, and there it is with, you see the heat's brought the color out, and I put my Deep Shine by tinypandora.com over it. And here's a bunch more, and I just like them all. I hope you do too. I hope you have a good time. Thanks so much for stopping in, and I will see you next time.